Anyway. Fine. Okay. I just got a text from Yossi Weberman that he asked some rabbis and they said it's okay. So if you want to know, I have to find out which rabbi.
Why?
What? Well, I asked her, so she went into the mikveh holding her hair. And then she let go. So the pashtus is the hair was under the water. And the diavad.
She knew to do that?
I didn't ask. I ain't asking any more questions. I mean, yeah. All right. So now we're just finishing up the trumah hektish gemara, and then we start with the Patzua daka.
Naftali, you know what she did? She put a lace piece on, because most people hold it as if you hit the you hold it's not even covering your hair, and she went into the mikveh with that. You kept the hair down, and they hold it's not even a covering, so it's hold it.
Yeah. That it's grada you're being mechaven, because in one of the mefarshim and Shulchan Aruch says if you're in that type of situation, so you put a net on top of your head and hold on to the So, but I guess so you take a lace shaitel and go in with the lace shaitel. Very good. Yeah. Okay, so we're up to mamish a little bit more than halfway up the daf. I know we're starting late, so like this, at least we did a decent amount of it before on Friday. It says b'mayim yuv v'tomei ad erev lomali. That's where we are. It's I would say almost 20 lines down from the top. There we have it.
What's the first word?
Rafe, perfect timing. Good luck. We're mamish about to start. What the first word on the line is aval yeledes emaloi satricha. It's about where Taisus the meid asher yitar ad asher yitar lo yadana Taisus. It's probably about 10 lines up from that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
We're about it's the word b'mayim yuva. It's the last two words. It's a pasuk.
Okay.
So it either has a number two. It either has a number two there, or depending on what age your gemara is, or it's a circle. Right.
Mine was in the flood.
All right. So there. Okay. So it says b'mayim yuva. The pasuk says that it should go into the water, and then it's gonna be tamei ad erev. This is talking about a kli that's tamei. So you also kalim that are tamei also have to they need to go to the mikveh, and then they have to wait till that night. Some of Reb Zera the negia. So Reb Zera says we need the pasuk to tell you that you're not allowed to touch trumah, right? Meaning that you can't eat trumah, but you also can't touch trumah before Harav Shemesh. Tanya, the tamei, it says the word the tamei, it's going to be tamei until the night. Yachal l'chol. So maybe it should be tamei for everything. Tamei v'tiyar. So it says v'tiyar that it's going to be tar, meaning it's going to be tar once you went to the mikveh, even if you don't have Harav Shemesh, even if you didn't wait for the night. Even tar yachal l'kol. If you're going to say v'tar, so you would think that it's for everything. It's tar for everything. Tamei laimar v'timei, that there's still v'tamei, that it's still tamei. Okay, tzad. Kan lemaiser, kan letruma. One is for maiser, and one is for trumah, right? So for trumah, it's going to be tamei till the evening. For maiser, it's not. So when it says, okay, epachana, maybe I should switch it. I mean, who says which one maiser gets the tahara and trumah gets the tumah, or maybe it should be the opposite. Mistaber kihere de chamira achila de trumah achila de maiser. Mistaber, since eating trumah is more chamor than eating maiser. Right, so because you have to wait till night in order to eat the trumah. The touching of trumah is going to be more chamer than the touching of ma'aser. And or the others say that we learn out the isser of touching trumah from a brisa b'chal kodesh lo'isiga. It says you shouldn't touch anything that's kodesh. Ashara la'oichel. Is it an ashara for somebody not to eat? Only it's somebody to touch. Yeah, makish kodesh lemikdash. So we make a hekesh of kodesh to mikdash. Ma mikdash davar sheyesh by netilas neshama. Right. So in the base of mikdash, that if you go into the base of mikdash when you're tamei, it's going to be netilas neshama because it's a chiyuv misa. It's karus. So af kodesh davar sheyesh by netilas neshama. So kodesh also is talking about something that has netilas neshama. Netilas neshama, but just touching. There's going to be no isser karus for touching. So why does it use the lashon negiah? Touching is like eating, right? That somebody who can't eat also can't touch, which is a tful yom. He's not allowed to eat trumah, so therefore he can't touch trumah. So that's how we know by trumah you're not allowed to touch. You're not allowed to touch. Trumah is not allowed to touch. You're not allowed to touch trumah. A kli is not allowed to touch trumah until after nightfall. Okay, that's the end of the trumah kodshim. Now we get to Patzua daka, right? So the Mishnah had said that Patzua daka. So those are all the types of men. There's three, which we'll see: Patzua daka, plus shapcha, and dach nichlam, which is all different types of whether the aver is cut or whether the testicles are cut, and the Gemara is going to go through all that. So we said that so if a man who's already married, a kohen's married, and then he gets hit, so then he becomes usher to sleep with his wife. So we said the wife is not allowed to eat. He's allowed to eat trumah because there's nothing wrong with him per se, but he's not allowed to. If he sleeps with his wife, we said if he sleeps with her, she's not allowed to eat trumah anymore because he's not allowed to sleep with her. But until he sleeps with her, even though they're married, she's allowed to eat trumah. What?
Even if he was Mekayim Puravu?
What do you mean, even if he was Mekayim Puravu?
What's the reason now to sleep with her? Because
it's also it's also in the pasuk. Patzua daka can't come to Kahal Hashem.
Why? Because what? Because the person might because of Puravu, no? No. It's the Isser even having nothing to do with Puravu. Somebody's born like that, so can't get married?
Correct. No, actually, that's debatable. If he's born like that, then I think 1 second.
The Gemara is going to talk about it later.
Not really so much with the. Not really so much with the.
Mishnah
Like
talks
that.
about it.
Is it later? I don't even remember. 2 blocks from now, no.
It sounds like it's a woman.
What did he say?
Yeah, there's the Mishnah if it happened naturally or if it was
Okay, so then
medically,
so we'll wait.
Yeah.
What do you say, parrots? Yeah, but anyways, okay, so let's see. So let's see. So anyways, but either way, as long as they haven't been together, then she's allowed to eat the trumah. Oh, but they're going to be together. So Gemara says, "Mantana mishtameres labia psula daraisa achla." Right? If somebody's going to be, if she's waiting, meaning she's shemeres, meaning all she's waiting is for him to be with her, and then if it's going to be in a daraisa, she's still allowed to eat it, even though she's destined to be with him. They're married. So once so let's say 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it becomes a Patzua daka, or whatever, this accident happens. Then, so at some point, they're going to be together. So we're saying, but she's still okay now. So who is the shita that says that she's still okay, even though she's destined to not be okay? So we had this machlokes way back. Machlokes shnuya, it's a machlokes. For Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon here, and it's Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon. I remember we said that we had an almana who a kohen gadol was mekadosh an almana or a grusha. She's allowed to eat the trumah, and they didn't do nisuin. She's allowed to eat the trumah as long as they weren't together. Right? That was that sheet. But Rameir disagreed with them and said they can't be together. She's not allowed to eat trumah. So here we're talking about she already ate trumah, meaning in the case that we had a bunch of blood ago, right? It was 20 blood ago. Yeah, that the almana or the grusha got engaged to the kohen gadol. She never ate trumah yet. So Rameir holds she shouldn't start. But here she already ate trumah, so Rameir would be maida that she could continue eating trumah until they actually have relations. But Rabbi Elazar doesn't go with this rule that she already ate. If she already ate, then she can continue eating. We don't say this. Bas Yisrael, this is l'kohen. If you have a case of a Bas Yisrael, right? We had this a few blocks ago that a Bas Yisrael married a kohen, right? So then she's allowed to eat trumah, umeis, and then her husband dies. Umeis baila, and her husband dies. Teichel, she's allowed to eat trumah. Shekvar ochla. Meaning, if we said that if she has kids, she's allowed to eat trumah. But if she doesn't have kids, she has to stop eating trumah, right? So shekvar ochla, so you said because she already ate. Since she's already ate, she's allowed to continue eating. We don't go with that. Rabbi Yochanan Hassam Paka Kinyana. No, there is different because there her marriage was over. Her husband died, so the kinyan was over. So therefore, even though she ate trumah already, she can't continue eating trumah because she doesn't have kids and she's now divorced or her husband died. But Hacha like Paka Kinyana here, the kinyan is not ruined. They're still married, right? So as long as they're still married until they have relations, then the wife can still have trumah, right? Fine. Okay, so then Ezu Patzua. So now we get into all biological gemaras, right? So Ezu Patzua, what is a Patzua daka? So Tanrabban, Ezu Patzua daka. So Patzua daka is going on the testicles. So what does it mean that it has a cut or it's crushed? So Kol Shenitzu Beitzim Shalei. The beitzim were smashed, right? Or however, I don't know exactly what exactly they are. We're going to try and figure that out. Vafilu achas mehen, even if it's only one of them. Vafilu nikfu, even if it gets a hole in it. Yeah. And Taisa says even if one of them, even if one of the beitzim gets a hole in it, that's also enough to make him into a Patzua daka. Vafilu nimukai. And even if it's just they melted literally, vafilu chasru, and even if it's just part of it is missing, yeah. So all those things considered make him a Patzua daka, and he's not allowed to marry anybody. So Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshia, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika Shemati mipi chachamim bekeren b'yavna. So kol she'ein lo ela beitza achas ein lo ela sris chama v'kosher. If a guy only has one beitza, then he's called what we call a sris chama, kosher, and is kosher. Yeah, so sris chama basically means like naturally. That's what we were discussing before. So, right, that it's a sris chama, which would be okay, but that's minat Torah. So we have to see. So when it says sris chama sagadaita, you're really going to think it's a sris chama? Sris chama is something natural. This is something that had an accident. It's like a sris chama. He is not a sris chama, right? He's like a sris chama, and therefore it's going to be mutter, right? The question is, like we discussed, somebody who has testicular cancer and they remove a testicle, is that called what do they call? Because they have kids. They do have kids, right? So
that's why I asked you if he's Mekayim Puru.
Yeah, no, but he's in the Metzias. Would that make him? If that nowadays, I never heard of anybody who what do you call it? Who has his one testicle removed is considered a krus shafcha or Patzua daka, and then mainly he can't stay married, right? So that's not. I'm pretty sure we paskin that it's not a problem. Fine. So the Gemara says, if you get a hole in the testicle, you can't have kids. Who gavra the salak ledikla? You had a person who was climbing up a palm tree on Talmud Beis now. Vicharze silva bebeitzim, and a silva went into his beitzim. A kite, a thorn, went into his beitzim. Benavik minei kechut demugla. and some sort of mugla. How do you call it? Like
Rashi says.
what?
Pus.
Pus or what do they call mucus or something like that came out of it, violet, and he still had kids. So you see that you could have a testicle that gets a hole in it, and they could have kids. So the Gemara answers, Hashalach Shmuel kamei the Rav. Shmuel sent in front of Rav Amar Alei, and he said, "Seiva chazar al banav me'ayin him. Go look where his kids come from." Meaning they can't be. She must have been Mizana. The wife must have been Mizana, and that's why she had a kid. Fine. So I'm going to read Shmuel, Patzua daka bidei shemayim kosher. Right? So Patzua daka bidei shemayim is kosher. Now, what does it mean bidei shemayim? So the first thing that Rashi says is al yedei re'emim, from thunder. Ubarad is hail. So thunder, I don't understand what that means. Right? Barad, I understand. If the barad hit him in the wrong place, so then fine. Okay, that you understand too. That's from the womb. Yeah. The question is, though, what's considered sickness? Is sickness, if the guy gets sick and then something happens, is that called min hashamayim or not? So whatever it is, that's a tumult in the pesukim. But either way,
Why shouldn't it be?
What?
Why shouldn't it be min hashamayim?
Because what's the difference if min hashamayim, meaning does not min hashamayim mean something? It's physical. So you get into philosophy with this too. Being hit, right? It's being hit. That's called min hashamayim or not min hashamayim. So of course, all of us big bali bitachon are going to say everything is min hashamayim. Right, that's clearly not min hashamayim. At least,
But don't we say, except for the common cold, that everything else is in your control? Is really right?
Yeah. So what are you saying? So
it is under our control. It's missing, except for a common.
So if a guy gets hit there, so now
it's because he must have done something wrong at some point that he's getting punished for it, right?
No. But I'm saying okay, fine. But I'm saying taking punishment out of the picture. Do we look at that like min hashamayim or that an accident?
I don't understand. Now you're saying that every accident somebody gets into or whatever it is can't be min hashamayim?
No. You see, that's what I'm saying. This we have to split. We have to separate the philosophy of it and just the physical of it. The pasuk says that a guy who gets
there's no such thing as an accident.
No, right. But the bottom line is the pasuk says that if somebody's testicles get crushed, then he can't come into the Kahal Hashem. He's not allowed to marry anybody. Right, whatever that means, but that's what the pasuk says. So that means that something physical happened to him, right?
Right, just like if somebody was born deaf or whatever.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, that's not the same thing.
Why?
Rashi's saying because that's something that's, I don't know what the word is. That's something that
Hashem made that to happen.
It happened naturally. All right. Well, we're saying something that happened bidei shemayim is what? Rashi says 3 cases: thunder, which I have no idea what that means, barad, and mei imay. Rashi does not say that it means if somebody got sick and something went wrong with his testicles. Right? He doesn't say it. Why wouldn't Rashi say that? So that's a big tumult in the pesukim, exactly what's going on here, right? But one thing is for sure, if he gets hit, that's not called bidei shemayim. I mean, yes, everything happens bidei shemayim, but that's not bidei shemayim. That is an accident, and that's like the Ramban's shita about healing. Ramban holds that, I think it's the Ramban, that holds that only healing a doctor's allowed to do is for accidents, physical accidents. If somebody gets sick, naturally sick, whatever that means, then the Ramban holds you don't have any permission. You're taking Yad Hashem and you're trying to change it. But the physical is not. That's his shita. So it sounds like something like this is the same thing here. Either way. All right. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see exactly what this means. But I mean, read the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says that all these psulim that we're talking about, it's when it was not bidei shemayim. What's bidei shemayim? What's not bidei shemayim? A person actually cuts the testicles, or a kites, which is what we just learned, right? So he says that's all not bidei shemayim. But he says if he's a krus shavcha from birth, right, or he's born without testicles, or he got sick, and then something happened to the Devarim, yeah, he's mutter the love bekal, because that's all considered bidei shemayim. That's according to the Rambam. But Rashi and the Rush don't call it bidei shemayim, only through thunder, bar, and me'imai. Okay, whatever it is, that's the way the Shulchan Aruch brings both. Shulchan Aruch brings both shitas.
Why are all these things are not allowed to B'kal Hashem?
What's the philosophy about it?
What's the reason? What's the time?
It's really unclear. It seems like because they can't have kids, but so
Well,
what?
what about if they had children?
Right. So we're not mechalik. We're not mechalik.
So,
We're not mechalik between the two. I think ultimately that's where it comes from.
wait a minute, if
What?
the reason's puru, so then a person did puru, so then he's not allowed to stay married to his wife because
Lo yaveh b'kal Hashem. Yeah.
Well, Yava B'kal Hashem, is he allowed to stay B'kal Hashem?
No, that's what our Mishnah is saying. He's not allowed.
He has to divorce his wife?
I think so. I didn't look into Shulchan Aruch on this yet, so I'm not sure how we come up with the sugyas. Yeah. But anyways, fine. So Patzua daka b'dei shemayim is kosher. So Amar Rabba Hainu the Karina Patzua. That's why we call it a Patzua, right? V'loi Karina ha Patzua, right? This is a diktuk thing, right? If it would say ha Patzua, it would be sounds like the word hey makes it sound like that's the way he was born. Okay. In the Bryce it says Nemar lo yav Patzua. It says lo yav Patzua v'nemar lo yav mamza. And it says a mamzer shouldn't come in. Just like by mamzer, it's man-made, right? Obviously, a mamzer is, of course, you're going to say it's min hashamayim, that the guy was mezana with her, but the bottom line is it's done by men. Afkan, men and women, but it's humans. Afkan bidei adam, so to here has to be bidei adam. So Amar Rabba, Patzua bekulan, dach bekulan, and karus bekulan. Meaning, so we said there's three different types of things. It's Patzua and there's dach and karus. But each one can go to each one. What does this mean? Patzua bekulan, bein shenifza hagid, whether the gid, which means the actual aver, got cut, bein shenifzu beitzim, or whether the testicles got cut, bein shenifzu chute beitzim, or the chut, the strings, literally. What Rashi says is the pshat is that's how the beitzim are hanging. Then that also will be a problem. Any of those get cut, it's a problem. Dach bekulan, crushed by all of them. Bein shenidach hagid, whether the aver gets crushed. Bein shenidchu beitzim, or the beitzim get crushed. Bein shenidchu chute beitzim, or the strings of the beitzim. Karus bekulan, cut. Bein shenichus hagid, whether the aver gets cut. Bein shenichus beitzim, bein shenichus chute beitzim. Meaning, so all three could have one of these three, and any one of these three make you into a passul. Fine. So I'm really this is what we learned in the Sefer Chinuch. Who says the pasuk just says Patzua daka, doesn't say where on the body, right? Kedarka, the Torah doesn't say anything, doesn't give much information, right? We have to figure out what the information is. So it just says a Patzua daka shouldn't come in. So maybe it means his head. Maybe means if a guy crushed if he gets a cut on his head, or if he crushes his head, then he's not allowed to come married. So I'm relaying with the loy mana beidairos, right? The Torah didn't say anything about different generations, right? Meaning we had by other things, by Mitzrayim and Adaimim, there the 10 generations. Right. So what does it go? So Patzua daka says 3 generations, right? And what do you call it? So 10 generations, and a daimim.
But how would that work? If Patzua daka meant your head, then why would you be not allowed to be part of Kahal Hashem then?
Right. But, no, I think that's exactly what the Gemara is saying, since it doesn't mention, right? Meaning it doesn't say that a Patzua daka could come into Klal Yisrael after the 3rd generation or the 10th generation, but it does with Mitzrayim and Adaimim and all that. So it doesn't say that. So therefore, Shema Mina must be Ba'aseh Makkah, meaning because if you can't have kids, so that means you're not having any future generations. But a guy who gets his head busted can have future generations. Meaning if it would have been in the head, we would let them come back into Klal Yisrael at some point. But this, that it doesn't say that, must be that it's talking about the Aver, which means that there's nothing to talk about because they're not going to be able to have kids. So there are no future generations, unfortunately.
How do they do a toughest down bris?
How did they? Because the cut is not big enough to qualify for this.
So the shiurim now?
What?
Shiurim now, and what considers a cut?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry. There's all sorts of action coming, parrots. Right? We got chazanishes on this and all sorts of stuff. Anyways,
when did they invent the zipper? That's
That the Gemara does not discuss.
I'm sure they'll say that they
not.
would osir the zipper and you got to get the ones with the snaps.
Right. It could be. Listen, if you really want to get into Shulchan Aruch, wearing underwear is not pashut either. Right? Wearing underwear, tight underwear, whatever it is not so simple. Tight pants, okay, we're not going down that road enough, totally on. We ain't going down the biking pants thing. But that, if you really look at Shulchan Aruch, is not pashut at all. Okay, we'll hold off on that.
And I spoke to you about it.
I know,
Just
but
for the
that's
record.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways. So that's why it can't be.
We even got a doctor's study, I think, who's on here also probably. Dr. Corman on?
He's not. I don't know, but he's not on now.
He should be on. Okay, when he listens to the recording, he can comment on the chat.
Yeah. Anyways, if a dilma high delay mana by direst the Yehuda asa, maybe the reason why it doesn't count generations is because he's asa breu barbare kosher, but his son and his grandson aren't going to be kosher, right? Meaning they don't want to. Maybe the person with the head is not allowed to come into the kahal, but everybody else can. That's why it doesn't mention any future generations. So when answers
he's not allowed to come in. He's not allowed to have children. No.
What?
So maybe he can't have children.
That's exactly what the Gemara is asking. Maybe the Torah only said he can't come into the kahal mashma. That because again we're trying to ask that maybe he has a crushed head, so he could have kids. Right?
Doesn't matter if he could have kids or not. How do we know what the Torah wants? The Torah doesn't want anybody who has a crushed head. For Adar Bria's girl said that his family can't be in. He can't be in Klal Yisrael. Why? Why not?
You mean how does he have kids? You're saying how does he have kids?
It doesn't matter to me if he has kids. He doesn't have kids. Torah said a guy with a smashed head is not allowed to come into the cloud, so he can't come into the cloud.
I thought you were asking how does he have kids later?
Yeah,
meaning if you can't come into the kahal, how's he having kids?
So he was over in this and he had kids. They can't be in the cloud either. We don't want anybody from a fellow as a busted head. How do we know? How do we know it's not talking that? You can't tell me it's talking about it because how could it be? It didn't say for 3 days. Because it means forever. No.
That's what you would. That's
if he decides to be over and he has a kid, they're usher. It's like mamzeras.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what would be if he did it.
Barrett is all theoretical anyway. But I'm saying you can't bring a raya because it doesn't say that he can't come after 4 days. So he can't come forever. No, that's why it doesn't say that.
Yeah. That was the Gemara's previous line, and now for whatever reason, the Gemara's changing that. But I hear you, Kasha. I don't know exactly what.
I don't know the Rebbeinu cheshbon. No.
Yes, I'm not. I mean, that's what the Gemara said previously. So the Gemara is thinking now maybe, and the Gemara goes with this kasha because it totally changes the pshat. I don't know. So the Gemara says, "Do me the krus shafla." It's similar to somebody who's a krus shafla, right? Ma krus shafla by some. So krus shafla, right, with the aver, that has to be talking about the aver, right? So krus shafla is I say makam in that place, right by the aver, afhai nami ba'isamakum. So therefore, Patzua daka also has to be there. I'm going to ask, so okay, so who says Khrushchevka means maybe it means sifsaseh, really, from his lips, right? Maybe that's what it means, where you have saliva coming out of. So Gemara says shafchak where it pours. The makom sheshayfich, it's a makom that it spills out from there, right? So the Gemara says, okay, so maybe it means from the nose, because there's mucus that comes out of the nose. So the Gemara answers, mikstiv b'shvaich, does it say b'shvaich in what comes out from him? Karus shafchak, it says somebody who is, his shafcha is crushed. Mishal yidei krisa shayfich, from him being crushed, so then the liquid comes out. But if it doesn't get cut, it doesn't pour out. It just mikaleach means it's just kiluach means like it drips. It's not like heavy. So that la fuke hai the comes to exclude the, what do you call it? The nose and the mouth, which is always not shoved. It never comes out in very fast, like zera comes out. Right? From the nose and the mouth, the saliva and the mucus from the nose don't come out the same way zera comes out. So it can't be that that's the same thing. So Masisa Tana, in the Brisa, it says Nemar lo yavai Patzua daka. It says somebody who's crushed shouldn't come in, but never lo yavai mamzer. And it also says a mamzer. So mamzer, how do you create a mamzer? Through the aver. Afkan by some makom. So to here it's referring to the aver. Fine. So Gemara says nikav lamata me'atara shekenegdoi lamala me'atara. Where the aver got a hole in it, under the crown of the aver, right? And then it goes on an angle to goes out the other side of the aver, right? Yeah, meaning you basically like it's like a needle that went.
So this is not the
aver.
testicles anymore.
No, now we're talking about the aver, right? So, so basically the crown, the hole starts in the crown of the aver, and then it makes its way up towards the part of the aver that's between the crown of the aver and the body. So you get a hole there. So he thought he's going to be kosher, right? So Amarle Ravasi Hachi Amar Shuv and Levi Atara Kol Shehi Me'akeves. If there's a hole that goes through it at all, right, and that's going to be ma'akevim. Meaning it has to go, but it has to see parrots. The Tatovas Damris is just a little hole. This hole has to go from one end of the aver to the other end of the aver. Then it's
Like
a
a piercing?
Yeah, it's exactly, that's a good way to say it. Yes. A guy gets a piercing all the way through the aver, but he has to get it through the crown of the aver from the top. But if one end he thought that maybe if one end it goes this way on an angle, and there's no two holes on either side of the crown of the aver. There's only one hole, and the other hole ends up on the part of the aver.
Hold on, the aver already has a hole.
No, I'm talking about an additional hole.
I understand. So I'm saying if you pierce through that hole and then go up and out, that doesn't count.
Correct. That's what we were thinking. Yeah, no, but they said no. It's as long as there's a hole.
It's got to go sideways, basically.
Yes, yeah. But as long as there's a hole that goes through it, it doesn't have to come out the other side. It's still going to be considered a hole. Right? Fine.
I'll ask Aaron Kaplan to post pictures from the
other stuff. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So now we said if there's a little bit left of the atara, even the width of a hair, then you're still allowed to marry. He's still allowed to get married. Fine. Now I don't know exactly what the metzias is, how the person is not dying, but I guess not. I guess most of the aver could be cut off as long as there's a hair's worth of it on the end, then it's okay. So Yosef Ravina Kavoile, Malay Chutz this that we said, this the width of a hair. Al Pnei Kula, Al Pnei Ruba. Does that mean it has to go on around the entire crown of the aver, or just in the majority? So Amalei, Rabbi Tosfala Ravina, Rabbi Tosfala said Ravina, Malay Chut Al Pnei Ruba. It has to go on the majority. We said this about the tzitzin akfin too. If the skin does it have to be fully around or not? Uklape reisha, but it has to be on the head of it, which Rashi says is litzad gufay. Yeah. I mean it's hard to understand exactly what exactly he's saying, right? Because basically it's on a slant end of the Ava, right? So it has to be on the part, whatever is left has to be on the part closer to the body. Fine. Samar of Huna, kekumos kshera. If now a kumos is what do you call it? A pen, literally, but it means, like the feathers. So on the end of it, the end of a feather pen that they use to write a Sefer Torah with, right? So it's wider and then they chisel it down. So if a guy's aver looks like that, then he's kosher. But kemarzev psula, but if it looks like a marzev, so if marzev looks like a pipe, then it's passul, which basically means it looks like a pipe that's an old pipe that's open, like a gutter, right? So hi shalit ba'avira, what's the difference? Because one of them, the air, there's air there. The high low shalit ba'avira, right? The air, and meaning the air goes there and makes problems. But here the air does not go. If it's like a marzev kshera, he says the opposite. Kakumas psula, but if it's like a kumas, then it's passul. Why? Because high gorid, right? Because this way the zera comes out of the body properly. But high light gorid, right? But when it's cut like a pen, it's not a pen. What do you call it? A quill, right? So then it's not going to come out of the body properly, right? Omar Rava, Kavaseda Ravuna Mastavra. Ravuna makes sense. Hi, lo shalit ba'avira, right? Because one doesn't, the avir doesn't get there. But hi shalit ba'avira. And if you're going to say in an imishum gredusa, and if you're worried about that the zera doesn't come out of the body properly, so it's the same thing when you put a spigot into a barrel. So what happens when you put a spigot into a barrel? You had a barrel and you want to try and get the wine out of the barrel, right? So what happens is the spigot looks like a little pipe. So that goes in that part goes into the barrel. Then the part outside of it is much wider. Yeah. So meaning the thin part is not going to be in the hole. It's going to be inside. It's going to be inside the barrel, right? So once you stick it in, once you stick the spigot into the barrel, then it's able to touch the wine or whatever, water, whatever's in the barrel, right? So therefore, that will be the same thing by an aver when it's inside a woman. That aver will be able to, the zera will be able to go into the woman. Fine. Some of the Ravina said to Marema, it's kosher. Right? But is this where did it get cut? Did it start on the bottom of the aver? Right? Or is it lamala on the actual aver itself, right? Meaning, how far up the aver did it start? So pshita the lamala me'atorah. It must be talking about on top of it. Because you can think it's under it. I feel nichras like nami. Even if the aver was totally cut there, it would be okay, right? Because as long as you have a little bit of aver left at the top, then that's okay. For Ravina, the shavushim who debay, and Ravina, he was asking it. He was trying to mess with Marema to see if he understood the whole situation correctly. Okay. The there was a story in Matamachsia, Shafya Marba Ravashi Kakumus, right? And then what happened was is somebody cut themselves, and then Marba Ravashi, I talk about a moyon, he went and he cut off more of the aver until the end of the aver looked like a quill. I don't know how they did that without any, what do you call it?
Wait a minute, they had plastic surgery in those days.
I guess so. Right? So Shaf Yamar Ravashi Kikumas Vasher, and he made it kosher because that's what we said before. Right? That would be kosher. Who of the Papadisa? There was a story in Papadisa. It's that this goes to the Shich Zera. Right? What that means is that the zera of the person got clogged up. And what happened was the zera started coming out where the ketana means where the urine comes from. Right? So now exactly what that means, it seems like that's from this Gemara, it sounds like there were two holes, two openings, one for zera and one for ketana. Like by an isha, it's two separate openings. There's an opening for the zera, not zera, but whatever.
He brings here that nowadays it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever hear? Yeah, I'm saying, did you ever hear of the Metzias changing? How could that be that the teva changed and this goes from one? It went from two holes to one hole.
Rashi said, right at the bottom, Rashi in Gemara and Bechorus, yeah. And the Chazonish, I have a note from last time. The Chazonish says the teva changed.
Yeah, so let's see the Rashi, the second line down. So it wasn't. Let's see the Rashi. Nekev sharoi loitzi by zera nistam, but you might see carry derech meraglayim. I don't know if that mashma that it's two holes. The time of Bechorus shnei nekam yesh b'adam echan might see. You're right. Some of the Rashi sound like this. See, I understood it. The way it was explained to me when I was doing the infertility shiurim and all that is that you have inside the aver, you have two. There are two, right? And then there's a flap that covers over. That covers when the man has to urinate, so that covers over the zera tube. And then he urinates, and then when the man has to ejaculate, so then the urine one gets covered over. So I thought we could fit that into the
second note. It's the second note. I have the first note from the Chazonish that there was two, and my second note is what you just said. I have.
Oh yeah, okay, Baruch Shekivanti. But I'm saying, but that's the way I understood it. But you're right. Maybe from the Rashi it's mashma that they would taka two holes. I thought it meant, but how it meaning the kasha is how would you know? Right, if it comes out from one hole, right? The Gemara here is saying that the one for zera gets clogged up and it came out from the ketanim. That can't be. I mean, how would you ever know? Unless you had an X-ray or something like that. It's only
if you whittle it away so close, then eventually that's what's going to happen. If you hold it as a flap and you get up to where the flap is, and now you cut off the flap.
Yeah, it's not talking about, but here this case is not there. There's not talking about where it was cut off. That was the previous case. This is stump. I think this is an internal wound. I don't know. Anyway, so Savar Rabbi Barabai Lach Shure, he thought to say it's kosher. Right? Because there was nothing physically wrong. You didn't see anything physically wrong like you were trying to say, Peretz. That was before. That's where it's actually, here there's no cut. There's something internal. Savar Papi Mishum Da'asu. So he said to him, "Ashtach, you come from the people. We had this once before. That you come from base Eli, the people that don't live for too long. Right? But we said the kids of Eli got cursed. So because he's saying because you come from family who lives for short time, so you're allowed to just say whatever you want. Right? Meaning he's saying that they could get pregnant. Right? When the zera is in the right place, it gets cooked, right? And then it's right to have kids. And when it's not in its right place, then it doesn't get cooked, right? So if this zera is going into the place where the ketanim comes from, then it's a problem. Yeah. Meaning they're disagreeing in the metzias. They're having a machlokes in the metzias. Whether if the zera goes through the ketanim, so then can that possibly impregnate somebody or not? Right? So okay, so they're saying it's a machlokes. Yeah, okay, I guess we'll stop here. We'll stop here for tonight. Yeah, okay, good talk. If anybody hears anything on any of the things about what this 1-hole, 2-hole business, it'd be quite interesting. You're saying the Chazon Ish says the Metzias changed. That's wild. It's one thing to say an internal Metzias changes, an external Metzias changes. That's wild. That's wild. And it's got to be changed from Rashi's time. It's not like that. I mean, it's whatever. It's 1,000 years. No, it's less even. 800-900 years.
Yeah.
It's very. I mean, I don't know what the.
Would it be apicorsis to say what?
Yeah, that's
See how
that's
Metzias
essentially what we're
nowadays.
saying. That's essentially what we're saying.
Metzias are changing nowadays.
Well, I don't know. I gotta try and look into Chazon Ish and find it and see. I'm not.
Didn't we
have
say
any
Metzias
idea
changed also, Tiago, with pregnancy and getting pregnant while you're pregnant?
Yes, that for sure. But that you could hear the Metzias changed. That's fine. Inside, whatever the not psychologically, physiologically things changed. Women's right. Women used to have hargashas. They don't have. You could all those things fine. But to say that every man had 2 openings and then it changed to 1 opening, that's already. I mean, imagine if all of a sudden we start having 1 hole in our nose instead of 2. At what point is that going to change?
Could be that maybe it was 2 openings. Oh.
I don't know. I don't know. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah.
All right.
Openings right near each other, maybe, and then it became one big open.
That could right. Yeah, it could be. It could be that's what happened. Maybe. Ich weiß nicht. I don't know. Don't know. All right. And any doctors that give dafs that I could listen to and see what they have to say? I don't know. Urologists? Anybody urologists?
The last Dr. Zakarowitz, man. Maybe he's got input.
Yeah. yeah. All right. Fine.
You just don't learn this Gemara with the shower program. Nothing in Yevamos.
Yeah, that's a fair. That would be a fair thing. That would be smart, Jesse. Yeah. All right.
Good to
Okay. Good work, everybody.
Good luck. Thank you.
Parrots, why do you have 2 cameras on?